4 mics. So somebody's gonna have to share.
Are you guys going to share?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
We'll share. All right. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Cool. So let's do some quick intros. So I'm Will Hyde. I'm the supervising producer of the live action department.
I'm Javier Davillan. I'm a production coordinator.
I'm Jessica Basami. I am a production coordinator also.
I'm Colton Clements. I'm the live action equipment manager and cam op and AC on set.
I'm Chris Damaris, and I'm the head writer.
Cool. So yeah, with this one, guys, we wanted to kind of actually show you guys some more things kind of behind the scenes and kind of talk about production stories that, you know, don't always involve talent and things that we do in prep for shoots and after shoots and just kind of hear some of our funny stories. But first want to, where are you going, Jessica?
I'm spitting my gum out.
She's done already. She's ready to go.
It's rude for me to be chewing gum right now.
Yeah, that's rude, Jessica.
I know. Deeper. Oh, I found some.
Okay, can we start, Jessica? You ready? Okay. So yeah, actually, so I kind of want everyone just to kind of start and talk about one, how you kind of got started in the business, where you went to school, first job, and tell us the movie, the reason that you do what you do. So Javier, why don't you start?
All right, I'll start this. I was born in Venezuela, Valencia, and I lived there for about 2 years and then moved to Houston. Spent most of my upbringing in Houston. Growing up, I saw Jurassic Park with my aunt, and I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I was bugging her to watch it, and she finally took me, and I like cried the whole time. But I really love that movie, and it's a very special movie in my heart, so that's probably why I'm here, one of the reasons why I'm here. But I went to UT after I graduated high school, studied film there, but you don't have to go to college to do film, just so I'm going to say that right now. You just got to do it. But it was a great experience, met a lot of really wonderful people, and I actually used to watch Red vs. Blue when I was a kid, so getting to work here, I'm fairly new, I'm a few months in, but it's been a really great experience so far.
So yeah, so for me, I went to Full Sail University in Orlando. I graduated there in 2004. Then I moved out to LA. I was out in LA for 10 years, worked for Warner Brothers and a commercial production company, and then been at Rooster Teeth for a couple years now. And yeah, I've been in Austin for 3 years total. So when I graduated, I didn't really plan on being a producer, just kind of happened, and found out it's what I was good at, and here I am. So Rooster Teeth has been a great ride so far.
I went to Texas State University in San Marcos, and my major was a little bit of on and off the camera. Because believe it or not, I actually did not want to produce when I was younger. I always wanted to be an actress. And these guys have heard this story many times, but I have to tell it again, and they're already going to start laughing. But I had a very big internship right out of college with an Academy Award nominated director, and I feel like I was just thrown into the wolves, going from college where your professors give you assignments in your groups with your friends, and you go make little movies, and it's really great, and everybody says you did an amazing job, and then you go out into the real world and you try and do that yourself, and it's like, why isn't this working out for me? This is really hard. You have to make stuff happen for yourself. And at this internship, I was just, again, thrown to the wolves, and I was crying every other day. I didn't know what to expect. They were they were hard on me in so many different ways, and I had no idea what I was doing. And again, I still wanted to be an actress, and there was one day where I was being an intern, and I was getting coffee for one of the main producers there. And I walk into her office, and she has a bunch of headshots on her desk of, like, A-list talent. Natalie Portman, Jennifer Aniston, Cameron Diaz. And she has a headshot in her hand. I couldn't see it, though. I set her coffee down, and I walk out of the room, and then I hear her slam the pieces of paper that she was holding in her hand down. And she says, "Damn it! Can't I find a fucking decent actress?" And in that moment, I thought, wow, so she has all these A-list actors on her desk, and then there's little old me wanting to be an actress, and I haven't even started from anything. So I was like, okay, this is going to be hard, and I had to do a lot of deep thinking in that moment of, what do I want in life, and how am I going to make this work? And so I made a sacrifice, and that was a mixture of what's important to me, and that was financial consistency and stability in my life, and I decided to switch gears behind the camera and started focusing on that, more of a coordinating and producing route, which led me here. But I still do acting on the side as a hobby because I truly do love it. It truly is a passion of mine. and I will never give that up. But you kind of have to weigh what's important to you and make those tough decisions. And as far as my movie, I would say, God, I was obsessed with movies. The Langoliers, Stephen King, The Patriot, believe it or not, with Mel Gibson. Really liked that one. And then I also love Moulin Rouge, Baz Luhrmann. Love that film. Sorry, I rambled on for a long time. Apologize.
Will, you didn't say a movie.
Oh, I didn't say that. That's right. I forgot my own question. For me, it was Raiders of the Lost Ark. Was mine. Yeah.
Well, I went to Florida State University where I studied film production. And a little over 2 years now, just like 2 years and a month, I started as an intern at Rooster Teeth and got brought on full-time about 3 months after that. And the film that really had an impression on me as a child, that's the reason why I'm here doing this, would definitely be The Lion King.
Not Cars 2?
Cars 3, man.
Colton, tell me about where you went to school. You went to a really good school and learned a lot.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I went to Florida State University in Tallahassee, Florida, and it's an awesome school. Learned a lot. It was a great program because they really put you through every position on set. You have to direct, you have to write, you have to gaff, you have to DP, you have to do everything. And so I got a really great education there. I'm very thankful for it.
And he brought his talents to Rooster Teeth.
Indeed.
I went to University of Texas in Austin, where I went to film school, and I started Rooster Teeth. I met Matt and Bernie whenever they were judges at a film festival, comedy film festival, and I had a bunch of movies in, and then they, contacted me, and we started talking together. I did freelance for a bit, and then started working full-time about 9 months after I started doing contract. And that was in around 2010, 2011. And I don't know if there's a particular movie that was the moment where I was like, this is what I want to do, but I do remember a specific moment whenever I found out that my dad had an old VHS camcorder in the back of the closet, and it felt like the first time, discovering paint or something. It's like, wow, I can do anything with it. I mean, this is to me. I just remember being excited that there's a camera thing I can make movies with. And my friend was like, yeah, well, so I'm like, we can do anything with it. Da, 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 da. So that was that moment for me.
I think what's cool about everyone sitting up here too is we all have had very different paths to getting to Rooster Teeth. Like Chris, when did you actually start in 2010? You said, yeah. So you've been here for.
I started. I think I started freelance stuff in 2010.
2010. Yeah, and how many people were at Rooster Teeth at that time?
10.
So 10 people, yeah, and I think we're at close to 300 full-time employees at Rooster Teeth. So it's getting quite big, and it's not stopping. And then Colton, are you at almost 2 years?
I'm about to hit 2 years full time in August.
In August, yeah, and you started as an intern, and then we hired you full-time, and so Rooster Teeth's been the only place you've worked so far.
In the industry. Yeah.
In the industry, yeah,
Oh,
cool.
wow.
And then, I was out in LA for like 10 years, and then I was at another company previously to Rooster Teeth here in Austin, and then have been at Rooster Teeth for 2 years. And actually, at that company, Jessica and I worked together, and then we both came to Rooster Teeth, and so yeah, we've been working in the industry for a while. And then Javier, just ever since I've been at Rooster Teeth, we've been hiring him a lot for projects, and then brought him on board full time. How long? Like 3-4 months ago?
Yeah,
Something
like February, March-ish.
Yeah. So it's been good. I mean, so you can see everyone. It's a lot of different paths to get to where we are. I guess Colton, we touched upon yours, but do you guys remember your first paying gig, and then any of your memories from that in the industry?
I got one.
Yeah, what's yours?
Yeah.
I got paid to film. It was like a horseback riding ranch up in Tioga, Texas. It's like 4.5 hours north of here, and it's like a Venezuelan distant cousin sort of thing, and he's like a really machismo kind of guy, and I was just with my silly little camera filming him doing instructive videos, and it was actually a really good experience. I learned how to edit from my uncle on that job, and it's watching it now, it's just not good. But yeah, it was a pretty good first experience. I don't know if I'd consider that the industry, but it was like a videography job.
Yeah.
So it was good.
What about you guys?
I did a lot of weddings initially. I like filming weddings in college, but there's one in particular. It wasn't a wedding. I was my friend contracted me. He was like, "Hey, I can't do this gig. Would you want to go film it?" And I was like, "What is it?" It's like, "It's a pickup artist convention." And so I swear to God, we went to this thing, and I just went and filmed like people who were good at picking up women, giving inspirational speeches to people who are really bad at picking up women. And so like, that's what I did for the day. And
Did you learn a lot?
I learned so much, and it's. I was like, man, all these other people have to pay for this, and I got it for free. No, but I
you're getting
do
paid.
remember I was like, I can't delete this footage because there's so much material, and I mean material, and not in that sense, but material is in comedy from this experience. So I probably still have it on a hard drive somewhere. But
Well, I guess my very first paying job in the industry was actually shortly out of college. I was paid $200 to fill up a bunch of hot tubs for promotional Hot Tub Time Machine 2
What'd you fill them up with?
with hot water.
Okay.
And I got to see the movie, and it was terrible.
Not a good movie. I think my first one, and I remember getting so excited when she gave me my check, was I was an intern for a casting director here in town, and we were casting for this JFK movie called Parkland, and we were bringing in a bunch of jackies that were coming in to audition, and she wanted to hire me to be a reader, and what that is you're sitting behind the casting table, and you'll read all the lines that is not for the actress that is coming in. And it was super depressing because it's about the whole premise of JFK being assassinated, and like she's crying and it's like all this stuff's happening, and it was a very emotional and long day. And at the very end of the day, she wrote me a check for $150 and gave it to me, and I just like looked at it and I was like, this is amazing. Like this is my first check here in the industry, and I felt really amazing and important, and really wasn't a big deal, but I thought it was.
Yeah, so for me, I was a set PA on a TV show out in Hawaii called Lost. You've probably heard of it. But yeah, so that was actually my first job. I was very lucky to get that. My friend was a production coordinator on it, and I remember flying in. I was actually staying on his couch, and then went into the office at like 6 a.m. A couple hours before call time. We were in the production office. And then he was like, well, he kind of laughed, and he's like, well, you can go make some coffee. So that was the first thing I ever did. And then the second thing, he's like, well, if the phones ring, just answer it. And so I'm sitting there. You know, I was only 20 years old, never been to Hawaii. I've been in Hawaii for 12 hours, never been there before in my life. And then he walks out, and then 2 minutes later, the phone rings. And, you know, so I answer, hey, Will, this is production, this is Will. And it was Evangeline Lilly, one of the main actors. And ironically enough, she's like, I can't find set, I'm lost. And can you give me some directions? This is pre-GPS and everything. And I felt like such an idiot because I could not tell her where to go or what to do. I was like, I'll have to call you back. So I had to hang up the phone on Evangeline Lilly on my first day because I couldn't get the job done, essentially. So that was my very first memory as a production assistant.
Did you call her back and let her know the directions?
Yeah, eventually, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's just like
gave-
sitting there. Just
Yeah,
like,
I had to figure out where I was first.
He gave her
then go.
directions to his hotel room.
oh, snap.
Yeah, so what about actually first memories at Rooster Teeth? For me, I remember coming in when I first started about 2 years ago now. And then I remember coming in and we had to do, we're in the middle of $1 Million Butt season. And actually the first shoot I ever worked on Rooster Teeth was the episode, working with Blaine, of course, of, I think it was like, I remember it was Meg and Ryan, and it was the parachuting one. I forget what the exact scenario was and everything, but I think we threw that all together in the first week, and then you came in not too long after that. I think we kept doing the rest of the $1 Million Butt seasons, but and I was joking around with Chris on this. It probably took me about 3 months before I could tell Chris and Aaron apart. I thought they were the same person, but that was one of
Same
my
problem.
first memories. Yeah, so
me too. I get confused.
yeah.
Yeah, no, mine was $1 Million Butt, and I did not know I didn't know what Rooster Teeth was before I got to Rooster Teeth, but now I do know, and I'm never leaving, so this is awesome. Really, really happy to be here. But yeah, and so I didn't know who Michael Jones was. So we're on $1 Million Butt, the where you sneeze, you teleport.
Oh, yeah.
And so you had told me to go get Michael and that he's talent. And I'm really good at coddling talent on set and stuff, making sure they're taken care of and happy. And so I see him get out of his car, and I run up to him like, hi, Michael, how are you doing today? I'm Jessica. So have you done this before? You know, is there anything I need to tell you about? And he's just like, I mean, I've done, not today, I haven't done this one. I was like, okay, well, this is how it's going to go. And I explained to him the whole process, and he's probably looking at me like, you dumb bitch. Oh my God. So I felt really embarrassed after that. Well, that was my first day. It was cool. Yeah.
I guess, well, I remember my first day, actually, I was put immediately on editing the very last RT recap, which was a lot of fun. But I remember my first set day, though, was an episode of $1 Million Butt. but it was the episode where every year on your birthday you have to watch your parents conceive you. So that was sort of like my introduction to what we'd be doing on a daily basis at Rooster Teeth. But it was a lot of fun. Super strange though, super awkward, but we're always doing such bizarre, fun things, and I think that's what makes working here so fun.
I don't remember what because I did contract stuff for a while, but one of the first shoots I was on was maybe the Fish Wish shoot with Jeff, maybe that, or maybe just editing. I remember editing the button, that short. That was a fun one. I don't know. It was just like in the old Congress office where I just remember walking in and being like, okay, this is cool. There's an office. That's nice. And then I was like, okay, and there were like 8 people or 10 people, and I was like, I got to try and remember everyone's name. And I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
I think I did some jobs before this one I'm about to say, but I don't remember what
You
they
did.
were. Oh, I did. The one I'm about to talk about is the episode of Red vs. Blue where the characters come out of the game and like run around the offices and meet the voices of the characters. And I worked as a PA, and I got so stoked because I had the opportunity to put on the mocap suit and do the actual actions. I did the scene with I guess Gus is talking to his character and they like shoot at each other or something. And as I was doing it, I was like, man, I'm doing such a shitty job. There's no way they're going to... I think even Matt told me, or Matt like said it to somebody who told me, they're like, yeah, they're probably not going to use this, but just do it anyways. And I'm pretty sure they used it because I just saw it a few weeks ago, and I remember doing a lot of those motions, and it was kind of cool to watch that. But yeah, it was a really neat first experience.
Yeah, that happens a lot at Rooster Teeth, as you can tell, especially with like something like $1 Million Butter Shorts. Like we'll just throw in a lot of our staff into videos, so it definitely happens a lot.
Yeah, there was $1 million, but quite recently, the 80s episode actually, and I'm usually I know ahead of time if they need me as just like an extra or some random weird lady to stand in the background, and I was wearing pants that day, and Blaine yells at me from the back room. We were in a house, and he was just like, Jessica, I need to use your leg in a scene. And I was like, oh my God, Jesus Christ, I hope I shaved my legs, which luckily I did. And literally my leg is just in one scene when they're just like pulling the blanket up when he's trying to like, what was it? Have sex with a Smurf or something like that. Yeah, that one of those. So my leg has appeared. I'd like to think it's famous now, so,
Yeah, Colton, you made a lot of cameos and some stuff.
Yeah, I've done a few. I got to applaud Blaine as at a strip club in a recent episode of $1 Million Butt, the Jessica Negri episode. Yeah, I've been in a few. If you were at the panel, apparently they showed a clip I was in.
Yeah.
There's like a really great sound effect there where it's like a woo, and it's just coupled with your little action. It's just so funny.
Yeah, probably one of my favorite staff cameos ever is Colton in the $1 Million Butt episode where you fart and you turn into someone of opposite sex. And Colton's in the back of the strip club when the girl turns into Blaine and up on the strip, and Colton's like, do it again.
Yeah,
Do it again. Do it again.
That's
You
definitely
look
one of my
like such a
favorites.
creeper. But it worked great.
You
It
know,
was
you-
great.
Channeling. You were
He's
channeling.
going method for it. Yes.
So what's some of your guys' favorite memories so far? Like some shoots you work on that was a challenge, particularly on the production side, not necessarily like how something turned out, but like I know we've talked about a lot of immersion episodes. Jessica, you've worked on a couple recently, Javier. Like just what are some of the most challenging or I mean, for me, like when something's challenging, it becomes fun later on when you go back to talk about it. But what are some things that come to mind for you guys?
I'll start real quick. We just did one. I think I see some folks that were there, but the immersion we just shot on Thursday, and we had it was close to 100 VIP members, and it was like the first 3 or 4 hours were pretty stressful just because there's a lot of people and we had to move a lot of bodies, but everybody was so cool. And Drew Saplin, our AD, was announcing. He said it beforehand, but then he said it on set again that VIP or Rooster Teeth fans and the community are some of his favorite people to work with as far as extras go, because they're always super helpful and always super down to do it. And I saw it and I experienced it, and it was a really great experience. Again, challenging, but everybody was on board, and and they all killed it, and that was such a cool experience for me.
What about you guys?
I'll never forget. This is while I was an intern. sitting in a closet in a yoga room while Chris and Aaron put on fake yoga classes. I was sitting in a closet with the sound recorder, blankets covered over me so no one could see the lights from the recorder. And I was in that closet for a few hours just listening to what was going on and not actually seeing anything.
This is for social disorder.
This was for Social Disorder Season 2, yeah. And that's something I always think back to, was sitting in that closet. Social Disorder had a lot of crazy memories.
Did you cover the one where we went to my high school reunion?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. With the mannequin and
Did you guys see that one?
Spent
It
the
was
night at my
ridiculous.
yeah,
the night at my mom's house.
she's
Yeah,
wonderful. lady.
that's a good story. You ever talked about that, Chris? Like after the fact, and how you didn't go and tell anyone that you weren't crazy and all this.
Well, yeah. So I went to my high school reunion and took a mannequin as my date, and then afterwards, yeah, we didn't. I thought we were gonna go to the after party, which we didn't, and then so everyone just thought it was crazy. But I think a lot of people have, on via Facebook and stuff, have since found out I'm not entirely crazy, which is great.
So wait, Colton went with you to the high school reunion?
Yeah. Well.
What? Like? Oh, there's
Yeah.
okay,
we
we're
filmed
filming
it. We
Okay,
filmed it.
we're-
Yeah.
I was
You're
just
just
like,
Colton
my-
was
yeah.
the mannequin.
Yeah, those are some intense shoots. Yeah. Where were we talking about?
Just some of your favorite memories.
Oh,
Just,
favorite.
yeah.
I thought we were doing worst memories. Like
Same thing.
Worst memories. Worst memory. God, you know what it was? It was the RVB season 10-year anniversary box set. Making those, because DVD authoring is horrible. I mean, there's no good story to that other than it was miserable. If you ever authored DVDs, don't. Because one, it's horrible. Two, they're no longer relevant. So.
I think the immersion warthog was I think that was my biggest shoot that I had done at that time, because we went like an hour north of Austin and we were in this giant rock quarry, and I needed to get like trailers for talent and just air conditioning in general, a million tents, our giant warthog, figuring out our special effects team to flip the warthog, and then our pyro team to then explode the warthog, which was great, and then making Gavin come to set to run Phantom, the camera. It was crazy, and that was also the biggest budget that I've ever had to deal with. Also, I was like, all this money for me? All right, let's hope I don't screw it up.
Yeah, that one was like one of the most prep times we've had for an immersion, because the warthog itself didn't even run. Remember?
Yeah, and then we pushed the shoot because of rain, or we thought that it was gonna rain. So we're like, okay, so let me tell my crew of like 50 people and everything, like, hey, we're gonna push the shoot a couple days. You okay with that? Like, is everyone still available? All right. Because that's, because we have to scheduling and making sure people are available and everything's like going to be the exact same from Monday to when we push the shoot to Wednesday. So that's extremely stressful. So.
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges that we always run into that, I think you guys probably never hear about, is just scheduling all the different talent that we have at Rooster Teeth to be in our various things. So we could have a shoot planned out for a month, and then, Gavin needs to go to London the next day or something like that when we're supposed to shoot an immersion, or then we need to get a couple new lab routes or whatever it may be. So as you know, we put out a lot of different content, so demands on them to be in several different things a day. Like sometimes they can be in 5 different things in a day, and but something like an immersion or $1 million but takes an entire day to shoot. So that's definitely probably one of the biggest challenges I would say that we face every day.
Yeah, and as fun as $1 Million Butt is, it is also a beast. It comes with a lot of locations and a lot of extras and a lot of coordinating and jumping around. We do, I think, at most 3 location changes in a day. It's a lot of moving around where we pack up and then unload and then set it all up again, and then we have our new wave of extras that come in. It's just a lot. But in the end, it's just also a blast too. So, and speaking of scheduling, on 11 Little Roosters and Gavin, this is a story. I had put his schedule for 11 Little Roosters on his calendar. I had told Lindsay Jones at the time, she was their coordinator in charge of their schedules, and then I had also Slacked him, which is our in-house like messaging system between everybody in the company. And I guess when I slacked him his dates, I forgot one day. And that's what he went off of. So when I sent him his call sheet, say Thursday night, and then I make sure to double check with him, I text him, "Hey Gavin, did you get the call sheet?" He never answers me, by the way. He's very busy, and I understand. And so usually he won't answer me. Then the next day he'll be sitting in hair and makeup, and I'm like, "Hey Gavin, you good? Is everything okay?" And then he'll text me and he'll be like, "Yes, I got the call sheet," and then look at me and wait for me and then check my phone, and he's like, "I got the call sheet." I'm like, "Thanks, buddy. You're sitting right here in front of my face. You could show me that last night because I was stressing and having a panic attack." But anyway, so he immediately texts me back, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is crazy." And he's like, "No, I'm not shooting tomorrow." And I'm like, "Haha, Gavin, you're funny." And he's like, "No, I'm really not." He screenshots our messages, and I did leave that day off, and I was like, oh, my heart dropped into my stomach because we have a whole day prepped with all day Gavin there for 11 Little Roosters, and I immediately call our other producer and our AD, and I'm like, I did something bad, and it's all my fault. I take full responsibility, and so we try to maneuver things around. Gavin worked with us, and in the end, it was fine. But those type of situations, I'm just like dying inside, and I'm like, I can't mess up. I have to like triple check everything to make sure I don't screw up in those situations.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, and that's one thing about production. Nothing ever goes exactly according to plan. You know, there will always be that 1% of things that go wrong. Whatever it may be. Drew knows that very well. He's our AD on a lot of our shoots. Yeah, I mean, whether it's scheduling or weather or, I mean, there's just so many different factors. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into some questions soon, but if everyone's like aspiring filmmakers, be prepared for that. You're always learning something new, and there's always challenges to overcome, and nothing ever goes exactly according to plan. Definitely have learned that a lot over the years. 11 Little Rooster is actually a good one to touch on a little bit. I know you didn't work on it. Did you work on it at all?
I did not.
No. But yeah, Jessica and Colton and Chris were on it a lot. Any good other than that one with Gavin? A couple things to mention actually. So that was entirely filmed in 15 straight days of filming, all 8 episodes. And so we try and obviously condense shoots like that for the cost sake and the talent commitments and all that stuff. But that was probably the first Rooster Teeth production to have every single cast member in it, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, 40 some cast
Pretty
members.
much. I mean, unless you count like early stuff like
Yeah,
RVB,
but
but like later.
current talent. Yeah.
It was intense. I mean, I can't tell you how many times Matt complained to me about Josh, like he keeps put too many people in that stupid show.
I know.
he's like it's too hard to schedule.
Yes, 35 people are cast list, and just making sure that everybody's schedules was okay was terrifying. But everybody was super easy to work with. It ended up working out well, and I think the end result was spectacular. So I'm glad that we did that. As crazy and as stressful as it was well worth it. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, the favorite show that I think we consistently do for me is immersion, because there's always a different challenge. I talk about, I mean, every production is always a different challenge, but immersion, from concept, and sometimes we'll do sponsored ones, like the one Javier just worked on is for the game Fortnite. But every single shoot is completely different. There's always a new way to approach it, a location. Colton knows like ways to shoot it, to light it, whatever it may be, special effects, stunts, and I'm always mostly concerned about the safety side of it. So as you know, Gavin's gotten hurt like a couple times on things like that, but yeah, for that one, it's just such a unique show to do. And actually, one thing to mention, where are they? For me personally, as my personal experience is Australia, is I've been able to go to Sydney a couple times to do a couple episodes of immersion. And way in the back there's Lauren, Pablo. They're our crew. Lauren is the producer that we hire in Sydney every year to produce a lot of stuff, and Pablo's one of the ADs on it. So I've been on there twice now.
Thank you.
Yeah, they are awesome. And we did the Space Invaders episode down there, and then most recently the Last of Us one. So those are really fun, and as well as getting all the fans involved. So just for me, those are some of my favorite memories so far at being at Rooster Teeth.
I enjoyed the I didn't produce this one, Patrick Matthews did, but the Immersion Hitman with all the fans last year at RTX, that was so much fun too. I don't know if you guys saw that one, but it was a good one. Were you there? Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, who was at the Fortnite shoot the other day? Or who has been in an immersion? I'm just curious. Okay, wow, good night, cool.
Great.
Very cool. And is anyone else from Australia? No, you guys are the only ones holding it down.
Crikey.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
got London coming up. I won't say what, but more than likely we're shooting a couple things in London. So figuring that out after this crazy weekend. Yeah, and actually to talk about longer form stuff like 11 Little Roosters. Did anyone go to the Founders panel? Founders, yeah. Did you guys hear about a thing called Bloodfest? Yeah. So one of the things, I don't know if you guys know Doreen, so she's another supervising producer, and she produced Laser Team and Laser Team 2 and Day 5 and all things like that. And then and usually that's with a lot of outside crew that we bring in our bigger budget projects. But one of the things we've been working up towards with my department, all of our internal staff and team, there's about 30 some of us, and always cranking out the shorts and the immersions, $1 million butts. And so we want to have those people in-house so we can hopefully do some bigger projects. And 11 Little Roosters was a good first test of that. And so the internal team will be producing that movie Bloodfest, and we're going to actually we're going to start shooting it. It's going to shoot in the month of August, and
Very soon.
very soon. We got a lot of work to do starting tomorrow. But yeah, so we're actually going to be shooting that, and then that'll be our next movie. We can't say when or where and all that stuff yet, but it is a horror comedy. So I'm producing it. Jessica's going to be the production supervisor on it. Colton, everyone. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a blast. So we're really looking forward to that one. So there'll be a few more details on that probably towards the end of July. So looking forward to that.
Any questions?
Yeah. You guys have any other memories you want to share? Anything where we can get into some Q&A? No? Cool. Yeah, let's start some Q&A, guys. We got a Roman mic out there somewhere. Yeah, let's start with you right there. Cool. Sure.
You went to Full Sail, right?
I did.
I'm going to be going there soon.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to be going to Full Sail University soon, and do you have any tips for maybe how to maybe get ahead?
Tips with Full Sail. I mean, it's definitely probably changed a lot since I've been there. But my main tips would be to try everything. Don't if you want to be a writer, director, camera, whatever it may be. Don't focus on just one thing. Like, try everything. Like, from there, I learned how to coordinate shoots. I learned how to load film. You probably won't learn that anymore. But just definitely get your hands in everything, because when you go out into the field, and on another panel the other day, I was telling people, take any opportunity you can get to get in the door. Don't stay focused on one particular thing, because you never know what else it can lead to. So definitely try everything when you're there, and just have an open mind, because you might find something that that you like that you didn't even know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's go right behind him right there. Yep.
So I know you guys do mostly production here in the United States. I was wondering, could you kind of give an idea of what extra effort has to go into any international productions, like when you're planning to shoot in London or in Australia, or when Bernie and Gavin went to India for the magical head rub and all that?
Sure. Well, understanding the Australian accents is very hard. Sorry, Lauren. Those are definitely very, very challenging. There's a lot of legal challenges actually with things like that. When we have crew or talent or extras or anything like that, we have to sign a lot of paperwork, and there's insurance stuff and what we call I forget, I'm blanking on what they're called, but just release waivers, just to appear on camera and things like that, appearance waivers, and a lot of that stuff doesn't apply when you're in another country. So you kind of have to come up with that stuff and just prepare for it, and then time difference. Is another big one. So usually when we're prepping for stuff in Sydney, they're a day, almost entirely another day ahead. So I have to be up on the weekends or whatever, and kind of planning all that stuff with them. Have you guys ever? I mean, you guys helped me with some of the stuff in Sydney, maybe a little bit, but
That was Patrick last year.
that was Patrick went there, and then London. I've done some shoots at a previous company in London before, and it's definitely it's more expensive too, because you just have to plan for that and getting everyone there. And all that stuff, but it's always fun. It's always fun to do that stuff, and you definitely learn a lot, working with different crews that you're not used to, and things like that. So, let's go this guy right in the middle.
Real quick, I also saw Doreen walk in. We gave you a shout out earlier. So Doreen's here. She's the producer of Laser Team Day 5. She's a badass. Yes, Doreen!
All right, so my question is, a lot of times a project comes together in the editing room, and with how fast-paced you guys are with producing stuff, how much of a chance do you get to be in the editing room? How often do you guys go into the editing room with the editor?
Well, so usually right now our team's basically split up in like a production and post-production teams. So the only people that really will see everything through is the whatever writer director is on the project, essentially. So I think Allison wasn't here, but she left. So Allison Feldstein is our post-production producer and kind of supervises all that stuff kind of going through once we're done with the shoot. So Jessica and Javier and Colton, all these guys, they get the shoots done and then they move on to the next one, and basically everything gets passed off. And then say if Chris is directing something or whatever, then he'll work with that editor and just start with a rough cut. If it's a sponsor thing, we have clients that need to look at it, whatever it may be. But some of that stuff can be done in somewhere from a few days all the way to sometimes a couple months. It just really just depends on what it is. Anything else on the post-production process, Chris, to really kind of mention there?
Yeah, I mean, if you like doing production stuff, in general, it's a good idea to learn how to edit yourself, even if you don't want to be an editor, just because when you're making stuff, being able to edit, you'll get it done, you'll get it finished, because finding someone to edit stuff is sometimes difficult. And then also, editing itself, I think it informs the way you learn so much about like cinematic language by editing, because you learn what cuts together, what doesn't cut together, and how to create a scene visually and editorially. So like the editing process is great. Nowadays, thankfully, we don't have to do as much editing ourselves, so we kind of work with editors. It'll be a lot of times if it's something simple, it might be like notes via email, but a lot of times you just have to sit down and like kind of, okay, well, here's what I was thinking of this. Oh, well, that's not working, so let's try this. And it's just a lot of communication. Communication is number one thing for pretty much everything in film.
Yeah, definitely in editing, you'll get there and sometimes you got to try something different, right? A lot of times when you figure out like different ways to go about a project or whatever.
I mean, there's a lot of times where a project's made in editorial. Sometimes things fit together like a puzzle and it's like boop, 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 boop. Other times you're like, well, none of these pieces fit together, so we're going to have to reimagine the way the story is or the way the scene is constructed. Maybe there's some other way of doing this. It's hard to explain, but it's just doesn't work, and you got to fix it in post.
Oh God.
Just to
Worst thing to say.
piggyback on that real quick, and something that was said earlier, if you're able to learn how to edit, you can essentially make a movie by yourself. If you can shoot it, you can potentially even act in it, direct it. You can do it all yourself, so you don't have to depend on anybody else as far as in the beginning part of your creative career or whatever it may be. But I think with what was said earlier about not when you were talking about Full Sail, just trying everything, doing different types of positions, you learn an appreciation for all different types of departments and what it takes to really make something. And so one, you're able to communicate just through knowing on what it takes to make something, and then two, you also understand the work that it can take behind it all. And so some people who may not have those experiences will be like, why isn't it going faster, why isn't this, and they just don't know really what it takes to do that kind of stuff. So the more you can do, the more you can learn yourself. I think Robert Rodriguez is a great example of that. He learned it all and he was able to do pretty well for himself. But just that's a little tip on my end.
And especially with our editors, all of them kind of have their own style and feel, so you kind of have to.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times too, it'd be like, okay, well, I think this person will be good for this particular project, and depending upon availability, we'll try and match up a particular project for a particular editor to take advantage of their skills. So they're all great.
Yeah.
Next question. Let's just keep on. Yeah, you're right there.
What project would you say is like your most precious or your baby?
Ooh. At Rooster Teeth? Here at Rooster Teeth?
Or in general?
Yeah. Chris, you want to take that one? Or you start?
Currently, probably day 5, just because I've lived with it for, in some way or another for like 4 or 5 years, but also just like really invested in the story and characters and writing. So.
What about you, Colton?
I guess it'd probably be my favorite production to work on, which is immersion. And it's Will, you already touched on this earlier, but like because immersion is always so different. No immersion is like the same. We have to go in with a totally new game plan for how to shoot it, for how to set it up, for what we need to build. Immersion's always a challenge, and that's what I really like about it.
And you always tell me how stressful it is. Colton refuses.
It is very stressful.
He refuses to eat on shoot days of immersion.
Colton is a machine. He's so fantastic.
Yeah, and I have to yell at him. I'm like, eat
Every
something, please. And then it all came to fruition the other day when. Colton, you want to tell that story?
He's still not feeling
well. I hadn't eaten all day. It was a very hot, for those of you who were there, you guys know how hot it was. And I did overheat and from dehydration, and I got very sick on set. So make sure that you stay hydrated in the Texas summers, as well as eat your lunch.
Or at least some nuts or dried fruit.
Yeah, something. I didn't eat anything.
Yeah, I didn't even know that happened, and I see Colton coming back over into our office, whatever. It was 10 minutes after all happens, and he's back to work, and he's like carrying all the media cards to give to editors, and he's like, "Don't worry, Will, I'm fine, I'm fine." Runs past him, I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then I go over to set, and then someone's like, "Oh yeah, Colton was just passed out on the ground, thrown up." I'm like, 10 minutes later, he's back to work. So the guy is a machine.
I would say the same thing, immersion, because it's different every time, and anytime we're given a project that we just have to make happen, it's like, I've never done this before, and I hope to God this turns out okay in the end. So yes, immersion, and then for me, 11 Little Roosters, because that was the biggest thing that I've worked on, and I can also see myself probably saying Bloodfest after we do Bloodfest. But yeah, 11 Little Roosters was awesome.
Yeah, for me, I would probably say 11 Little Roosters as well. That one was just definitely a big challenge, and a lot of prep that went into it, and just working with all the different cast. And what was really fun about that, too, and working with Josh and Blaine on that one, is the whole interactive portion of the game and kind of incorporating the fans. That was just something that I'd never worked on something like that before. And I just think it's very unique. I don't know of any other type of video content out there like that. Yeah, it was a good test for our department, so it was really good. I think we all handled it very well, and so for me, like, one of the things that I enjoy coming to work about every day is seeing all the pieces come together, just as a producer, and kind of bringing it all together. To me, that's what really keeps me going. So for that, it was a good challenge.
I'm going to say immersion, mainly because it's the biggest thing I've worked on so far in my short time here at Rooster Teeth, but I really appreciate live experiences that people share together, and although every production is an experience that's shared between the crew, in this particular experience, having all the extras and all the VIP members there, I thought it was really special, and there was a lot of really great moments that happened throughout the day, and I love people, I love interacting with people, and just seeing this community is super cool. So that's part of, I mean, I don't know every immersion's like that necessarily, but that has been my favorite part so far. My baby.
All right, next question. We got a few more. Let's go. You back there?
Just throw it. Just throw it. Everyone's waiting.
So I've been noticing that there have been a lot more Rooster Teeth videos focusing on the production. Sort of, first of all, how do you guys feel about that? And second of all, are there any aspects of production that you want the viewers to see or that you want audiences to know about?
You a lot more videos, like behind the scenes videos. You said, you're saying, yeah, yeah. So we try and put out as much of the behind the scenes stuff as we can. Definitely, I mean, for me, what I find the most interesting in those videos is probably the art department stuff. I mean, Marcus and his team, and Stephanie and all those guys, Max and Alex and all those, they just do incredible stuff. And if you don't know,
magic makers.
Yeah, if you don't know the background of those guys, Marcus came from Troublemaker, and they all worked on a lot of the movies with Robert Rodriguez and things like that, and made a lot of cool stuff. And so yeah, just, I mean, Chris knows we're always coming up with crazy stuff, and and then my job and Jessica and Javier's like to work with those guys to work within the budgets that we have and seeing what we can make and have it still look good, right? Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know about you guys, but to me, that's the most interesting stuff, because I can't make any of that stuff myself. So
Yeah.
it's very, very interesting to me to see that, and that's what I like the fans to see, because there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, I use Lord of the Rings as a good example for this, but the trilogy, they have such a huge behind the scenes segment on their DVDs and whatnot, and watching the behind the scenes for Lord of the Rings is absolutely fascinating. And I like to think of it like that, like how they make that happen, watching the behind the scenes of making magic. I'd love to believe that there's Harry Potter magic in this world, but there's not. Or maybe there is. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And so I see movies as our form of magic. And then when you get to go behind the scenes, you get to see kind of like how that magic is formed and brought to fruition when we do see the final product. So I think it's fascinating. So.
I think what's really cool too is that with technology right now, there's like wizards that can make anything that you want with a computer, but to be actually be able to hold something like a weapon or a helmet or armor, like that just makes you feel like a child again. And so seeing them build all the props right there in the shop, like, that's super, super cool.
Okay.
No. Yeah, there's for behind the scenes stuff. Sometimes there's stuff that we don't want you guys to see. Actually, Chris,
It's
maybe
mainly Chris and Blaine humping each other, mainly.
Y'all saw that though.
Well, we that's true. That's usually on camera all
we
the
probably
time.
should show that clip, Chris. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit, but the drunk interview stuff.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I
maybe
mean,
we'll
we
show
got
that.
a computer. I could
Jeez.
Yeah.
pull it out.
Yeah. If we give you a video on a flash drive, are you able to pull it up over there? No. Okay. No, oh yeah, we would need a laptop. I don't have a laptop with me. No big deal. Yeah. So everyone's seen all the drunk interviews that we did. Yeah. So yeah, Chris and Ashley did those, and Blaine tried to do one.
We all
He
had to be
tried
sober
really
for
hard.
that.
He
Alright.
did really hard.
He tried harder than anyone else.
He was dedicated.
Yeah.
Too hard.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of footage from we wanted to film just the whole process of that. Those guys going off the side and taking shots and getting drunk, and yeah, I mean, I think we did put out one behind the scenes of it, right? Like just like a few minutes
and I
of
think
it.
that's out. That's out.
Yeah, we did put that out, but there's a couple hours of that stuff, and like I thought Miles was going to try and fight Chris at one point. Chris was going around kicking computers, and
right.
yeah,
Oh.
like
All right.
it was a
That
crazy.
kicking is that's a little harsh for what I was. I mean, I might have been like tapping with my foot
Nudging.
aggressively.
Sure. Yeah, and no, and I was saying earlier that our whole crew was sober, so we sat there, coordinated, filmed, whatever the hell we did on that, and watched them just get drunk. We just sat there, just like, okay, how many shots have you had yet? Are you drunk yet? Are you ready to get on camera? And then they started getting crazy, vomiting on each other as we're sitting here sober. You know, like when you're out with your friends and you're the only one sober, that times 10 the entire night. Just like, oh, and I felt like I was babysitting Blaine. He was going around. He was hugging everybody. He's so sweet, so cute.
Got a big heart.
But oh, that was a night. That was a night.
that
I just remember they were reviewing Camp, and I went in there and I was just like watching and like giving notes, and
He has no business being in there giving
I was like,
notes.
"That's good, guys. That's good. It's a really good episode. Like, show it again. Like, we don't want to watch it again."
Yeah, Blaine was wandering around the office that night and giving hugs to people he'd never met before and telling them he thought they were amazing. So that was just interesting. But yeah, that was a little rough. I mean, we might do some more of those down the line, but maybe not with Blaine. So I was
have to watch him.
yeah, I was very concerned for his safety that night. But there's a funny story after that. So thankfully he threw up because we were concerned, and then he was okay. He just needed to go sleep. But we didn't want to leave him at his apartment by himself. So we took him to Aaron's apartment. And
Aaron lives above Blaine.
yeah,
I'm sure you
yeah,
know that.
they live close to each other. And so there's a story. If Aaron was here, he'd tell it much better than me. But so we left Blaine on. I think it was Ellie and Miles took Blaine there, and then we just didn't want Blaine to be by himself, and so he was sleeping on the couch. And then at one point, I guess Blaine woke up in the middle of the night, had no idea where he was.
Yes.
And he stood over Aaron's bed, just breathing heavily
For a long period
for a long time.
of
And then
time.
Aaron woke up and was like, "What are you doing?"
What is that? That's like some demonic shit right there. Like,
And because he was still drunk,
he had no idea where
he
he
said
was.
he was like, "Man, I wanted to just tell him thank you for like being such a good friend and let me crash on his couch." And so I just waited, but I didn't want to wake him up, so he just kind of like.
I hope you feel my thank yous.
He did when he woke up.
Yeah, so that's one of those. There's a lot more footage that we're definitely not going to put out there, but we put out a little video. So, but yeah, it's definitely a fun place to work. Got any more questions? Cool. Let's go right behind you, right there.
So a couple months ago, I had an amazing opportunity to be an extra for Day 5, Season 2.
That's what's up.
And I had an absolute blast. And hearing the announcements for Season 2 and everything, and every time I hear more about it, I get more and more excited. And I noticed that I have that tendency with a lot of projects that I work on, especially as I'm getting more into this industry. Do you guys get a lot of that? Like, because a lot of you guys have been in the industry for a while. And do you still feel that excitement when you know that things that you've worked on are coming out, or has that kind of died down with time?
Hell yeah. I think Rooster Teeth too. It's like everybody. I don't know. I think this is a pretty cool company to work for and putting out a lot of really neat stuff. So I personally am always really excited to see things come to fruition, especially since there's so many parts to it. And it's like, all right, how's it all going to come together? And yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind, even though we're the ones here making this stuff, we're fans too. So we go out. The groups, from live action department of the Prince will go see movies together. Sometimes we'll have screenings. Actually, one cool thing that we do, we've done it the last couple of years when we did it for Rogue One and Force Awakens, right? We took the entire company to go see Star Wars together. So that's just a fun thing that we go do, and that's completely outside of the office. And so we've done that twice now. But yeah, I mean, we're just as much fans of the stuff as you guys. And when we see it come together, we want to sit there and watch it and everything, or watch other stuff that we're not making. So yeah, I mean, everything that we do, and as Jessica mentioned, probably one coming up, Bloodfest, and the immersions I always get excited about because those are just fun shoots. So.
Yeah, and like I always keep going back to 11 Little Roosters because I'm very happy with how it turned out. But because since I was there just every day on set, watching all of that and going through the ups and the downs that was, and then seeing it and going through like all the footage, and I was like, man, it from what it was to what it looks like now, it is exciting. It's like magic. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I remember being very excited. I had a lot of fun on 11 Little Roosters, so I was very excited when that started coming out, and we had that all cut together. But another one, I remember the Immersion Warthog was something I was so looking forward to. I was there the day when we blew it up, and I was really excited to see that one come together. That's probably my favorite episode of Immersion. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always really exciting to see. You know, we spend several days sometimes shooting some of these projects, multiple days, long days, and so it's always really exciting to see, you know, whether it's a couple weeks or a month or so later, see the final product done and all that hard work that we did, and see what it's turned into.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the main thing is like everyone really cares about what we're working on, and is passionate about it, and works really hard on it. So then seeing it come out and seeing people react to it, there's nothing more satisfying or exciting.
Yes. To see all of your reactions, that's amazing.
And one thing to keep in mind, there's so many different things going on at Rooster Teeth. Like, not everyone here, we don't get to work on everything. For, say, all the animation stuff, or like up here, actually, the only person that's worked on Day 5 is Chris. So I haven't seen any of the Day 5 stuff, or things like that, or, you know, whatever, Camp, or different shows, you know, things like that. So there's so many things going on in different people.
Well, I've worked on Camp because I reviewed that one
that's
episode.
Right. He made those drunken notes.
That's right. Gave your approvals. Your drunk approvals. But yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is, yeah, we're just as much fans as you guys are. So it's always really fun for us as well. Yeah. Any more questions? Scope, you right there.
Now, obviously, some projects fail, so they don't get to be seen to their full completion for various reasons. I was just wondering, is there any like specific ones for you that you've kind of really been sad that for some reason it either got pulled at the end, or somebody said, "Nah, we can't do that," and especially things like maybe the Drunk Red versus Blue, where it kind of just fell to pieces on the floor.
Well, that one, yeah. This team didn't work on the Drunk Red vs. Blue thing, but I think that came out right. Yeah.
Well,
not really. Not in the form that it was intended to be.
Okay. Yeah. So. Oh, that's right. Yeah. I guess it didn't work out. Two things that I can remember when I first got to Rooster Teeth, we tried doing a short. We talked about this the other day. That we were filming. I don't know if you worked on that one, but it was with the Funhouse guys, and we had an actor walk off set.
Yeah, that was one of my first ones. And
was that one of your first ones? Yeah. So yeah, the way that story goes. So there was basically an interrogation scene, as if the Funhouse guys got kidnapped by the Russians, essentially, and they were in an interrogation room. And we had to film a scene with Bruce, and we had these couple actors that were, you know, the colonel, the Russian colonels or whatever. And then they had seen the script, but they just got it that morning, and then they were talking about, oh, they thought this was really funny. But then a scene came up, and Bruce comes walking out, and he's supposed to be completely naked, and he's wearing a dancer's belt, and then it's a fart joke. And this actor did not like that, and so walks off set, and eventually called his agent, and then decided to just leave. So we never ended up finishing making that short, unfortunately. We definitely want to try it again. But
came the wrestling short.
Yeah, and then do you guys remember the Lucha Libre short with all the Funhouse guys? So we were actually shooting the one that I was just mentioning the day before, and then they were in town for a couple more days, and then Blaine basically stayed up all night and wrote that short, and we shot it the next day. So sometimes things can happen very quickly when you got to scramble. And actually, speaking about the creative process, and Chris could probably talk about this more, when you have limitations of when you just have to get something done, sometimes that's where some of the best stuff comes out. And have a quick turnaround or whatever it may be. But yeah, so that's one that I remember, and then Jessica probably remembers an immersion that we tried to do.
That was one of my first ones again too. 2 fails on my part. That it just didn't. It was a lost episode, and I coordinated that one and was like, oh man, this sucked.
Yeah, Bernie talked about
the light of day.
Yeah, he talked about that one on the immersion panel the other day. We tried to do a Skyrim. Hopefully I say it correctly, but Fusro from Skyrim. And it's where you know, it's a big blast of air and knocks someone back really far. And so we did a lot of testing for that with fans, and air cannons and all kinds of stuff. When we finally built this air cannon, we started testing it out with like ballistic dummies. We found out from our stunt guys, they're like, well, yeah, you can't actually put someone in this. We've discovered throughout the testing process, like we always talk about, and if we actually put an actual person on it, it would rupture their internal organs. It was so powerful. So that's the only way. Yeah. So we didn't actually do that when we tried. Then we tried doing it with a fan. We actually had to shoot and everything. Miles and Carrie were going to be the lab rats on that one, and it just didn't work. That's with something like immersion. It's like it's like the show MythBusters, right? You're testing something out, and it's not always going to work. So cool. We've got about 5 minutes left. What do we got? Let's go. This guy in the black shirt back there.
Hello. You say that you've worked obviously in America and Australia. Is there any other countries you'd like to work in?
I'm looking forward to hopefully doing some shoots coming in London. For me personally, are you wearing an all-black shirt there? Are you Kiwi back there? I would love to go do shoot in New Zealand. So I actually went there after Sydney last year. So for me, I love visiting there. I don't know about you guys if you have a particular place you'd love to go.
I'd like to go to
film.
London. That'd be great. I'd love to go there.
Okay.
And,
I'd like you to take me RTX Sydney next year.
yeah,
Okay.
can I go to RTX in London?
Chris?
Yeah, anywhere. Yeah, I'm down for anything.
Chris has done a shoot in New Zealand.
That was cool.
Walk to Mordor. What about you?
Anywhere really outside the country would be neat. Yeah.
Antarctica.
I know a guy who did that with Google Glass. Seemed cool.
Cool. Next question. Couple more. Right over here.
That blood-soaked hair.
What's that? Oh, jeez.
I still go to school, but our school campus used to be on a stunt ranch, the Steve Wolf Stunt Ranch, which I know that Rooster Teeth did some stunts on, I think. And I was wondering, do you have a lot of different, stunt ranches and stunt places you go to? Or is it all, do you just move from one to the other? Do you just have a main one and then switch them every now and then?
It really just depends on the shoot that we're doing. We'll basically, we always try to find a location for what makes sense for the creative, of course, and then we make the stunt work with whatever. Another good example, I would keep going back to immersion, but the Mass Effect one.
Yeah.
The immersion. And so that one, there was a lot of ideas thrown around. At one point, we were going to go film it out in West Texas and do all these things. But then with the concept they went to coming up with all the wire rigging and everything we had to do that inside. There was a lot of testing. So, I'm trying to think of some other examples. I don't think we did a lot of stunt. Oh, we did some stunts on 11 Little Roosters, the stuff we filmed in sound check.
Well, what was that immersion where they're in the water? The jet ski, not the jet skis.
Yeah, the jetpacks that Chris and Blaine were in. Yeah, so
that was pretty cool.
That was definitely interesting. So that one we actually filmed down in New Braunfels, about 45 minutes south of here. That was a ski ranch. They do wakeboarding and all that stuff. So we always try to find something that makes sense with the creative, and then how we can do something safely. Well, safety is always the number one thing, but then what makes sense for the creative. And that particular one, obviously jetpacks don't exist in real life, but they have, or maybe they do now. But the water jetpack ones that we filmed, I guess that was almost a couple years ago now.
Year and a half.
Yeah, year and a half. Yeah. That was in January. You guys were out there in 30-degree.
Yeah,
probably 40-degree weather.
It was cold, but I was also getting to play Star Wars. So it was cool.
It was worth it.
Cool. All right, we've probably got time for one more question. Anybody? No more? All right.
He's got his
I don't see any hands. Sorry. Raise your hands higher. I can't see. There. Oh. Or is anybody you asked one already? Has anyone not asked a question yet?
I saw her. Do you want to? Yeah.
Cool. Sorry, I can't. You got to go up higher so I can see it.
Full extension.
So I'm still in school right now studying mechanical engineering, and I've always kind of thought that doing something in film might be fun. For a little bit, is there anything that is there ever a place in film for engineers?
Keep bringing up immersions, but we just had a whole crew of, this is different, but we had a whole construction crew, for example, building a 2-story fort. So, it depends on the project, but I imagine art department would probably be able to use your skills in figuring things out.
Yeah, definitely art department, special effects. There's a lot of stuff that goes in, particularly bigger movies when they build huge moving sets or whatever it may be. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of those people that come into that. Some very, very smart people that have to plan these things out and how to do it. Whether it's something comes to mind for me is like Inception. They build like these gigantic like rotating sets, and that's not. I mean, there's a lot of visual effects in there as well. But yeah, definitely things like that. would probably be-
Gravity. The setup for Gravity. Have you seen that? It's
Yeah,
nuts.
this makes sense. Not all people that work in movies do everything regarding to that movie. There's tons of different people that you'll just call one day and be like, hey, we want to make a movie about this. We have no idea how to do it, but you do. So will you come and do this for us? We'll pay you and work as a team and make this happen. So
Yeah, there's always a lot of specialists brought in on movies,
Yeah,
whether
like
it's like
specialists
a military
yeah.
advisor or an engineer,
Mhm.
depending on whatever you're doing, whether it's an advisor or someone actually help build something. But yeah, it's probably stunts, special effects, art department. That would probably be something that I would suggest. So, what time we got? Cool. All right, I think that's all the time we got, everybody.
thank you guys
But
so much
thank you for
being
coming.
here. Really
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
RTX is almost over. I hope you guys had fun.